The packed Jefferson Elementary School board meeting room fell dead silent as Karen Mitchell leaned into her microphone, her voice dripping with pure venom as she pointed directly at the woman sitting calmly in the third row. "Judge Judy, you talk about education reform, but what qualifies you to lecture us about running schools? You're just a TV judge who never even finished proper legal education. You make millions yelling at people on television while real educators like me actually do the work." The attack was swift, brutal, and designed to humiliate America's most famous television personality in front of 200 parents, teachers, and 3 local news crews covering what had started as a routine budget meeting. But what Karen Mitchell didn't know was that she had just signed her own death warrant. Because what happened next would shock everyone in that room and destroy Karen Mitchell's entire life in the most spectacular way imaginable. Before we dive into this incredible case, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing where my viewers are around the world. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss more unbelievable cases like this one. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Judge Judy Final didn't flinch. She didn't look down at her notes. She didn't even blink. Instead, she slowly stood up, her 81-year-old frame radiating the kind of authority that had commanded courtrooms for decades, and delivered that signature stare that had made criminals confess and liars crumble on national television for over 25 years. Because what Karen Mitchell didn't know, what none of the 200 people in that room knew, was that Judge Judy had spent the last 3 weeks investigating every single member of the Jefferson School Board. She had their records, she had their real credentials, she had their dirty secrets, and she had discovered something about Karen Mitchell that was about to end her career forever. Karen Mitchell's master's degree in education? Completely fake. Her teaching certification? Forged. Her decades of classroom experience? 3 months as a substitute teacher before being banned from every school in the district. But that wasn't even the worst part. Judge Judy was about to reveal that Karen Mitchell had been stealing money from disabled children's special education budget to pay for her fake diploma mill degrees, and she had the bank records to prove every single dollar. This wasn't just another Karen getting put in her place. This was about to become the most devastating public destruction of a school board member in American history, captured on video and watched by millions of people who were sick of watching incompetent frauds destroy children's futures, while hiding behind stolen credentials, too. Understand why this confrontation was about to become legendary? You need to know exactly who these 2 women are, and why their collision was inevitable. Karen Mitchell had bulldozed her way onto the Jefferson Elementary School Board 3 years earlier by promising concerned parents that she would bring real educational expertise to a district that had been struggling with devastating budget cuts and declining test scores. She claimed to hold advanced degrees in educational psychology and curriculum development, boasted about her 20 years of classroom experience, and positioned herself as the only board member with actual teaching credentials. Parents who were desperate for someone who understood education voted for her in droves, believing they were finally getting a real educator in a position of power, instead of just another politician making empty promises. But Karen Mitchell was a fraud from day one, and she had gotten away with it because nobody had bothered to verify her claims. Her master's degree in education came from Pacific Coastal University, a notorious diploma mill that operated out of a strip mall in Phoenix, and was shut down by the Arizona State Board of Education for selling fake degrees to anyone willing to pay $3,000. Her teaching certification was a forgery she had purchased online from the same criminal organization that sold her the fake diploma. Her 20 years of classroom experience consisted of exactly 97 days as a substitute teacher in the Riverside School District before she was quietly asked to never return after multiple complaints from parents, teachers, and even students about her incompetence and bizarre behavior in the classroom. For 3 years, Karen had spent every single day terrorizing parents, teachers, and fellow board members with her fake authority. She routinely dismissed concerns from actual educators by claiming they lacked her advanced training and couldn't possibly understand the complexity of educational theory. She voted to cut art and music programs because her fabricated expertise told her they were unnecessary distractions from real learning. She pushed to eliminate special education services, arguing that her imaginary psychology background proved these children were just lazy and undisciplined rather than struggling with genuine disabilities. Most disgustingly, she had been funneling money from the special education budget into a personal account she claimed was for continuing education expenses, but was actually being used to purchase more fake certifications and diplomas, to pad her fraudulent resume and maintain her charade. The parents and teachers who tried to challenge Karen's decisions were met with condescending lectures about her superior qualifications and years of experience they couldn't possibly understand. She had mastered the art of using fake credentials as a weapon, shutting down debate by claiming expertise she didn't possess and education she had never received. Karen Mitchell had turned the Jefferson School Board into her personal kingdom, ruling through intimidation, lies, and the kind of arrogant ignorance that destroys institutions from within. But she had no idea that her reign of terror was about to end in the most humiliating way possible. But Karen Mitchell had no idea who she was about to attack. While she was busy pretending to be an educator, Judge Judy was building one of the most impressive legal careers in American history. Born Judith Susan Blum in Brooklyn, she earned her law degree from New York Law School, worked as a prosecutor in the family court system, and spent 25 years as a supervising judge in Manhattan Family Court before her television career began. She had handled over 20,000 cases involving children, families, and education disputes. She had written books on family law that are still taught in law schools today, lectured at universities across the country, and received honorary doctorates from multiple prestigious institutions including Fordham University, St. John's University, and New York Law School itself. These weren't fake degrees purchased from diploma mills operating out of strip malls. These were real credentials earned through decades of actual work, helping children and families navigate the complexities of the legal system. Judge Judy's connection to Jefferson Elementary wasn't some celebrity publicity stunt or a random appearance for photo opportunities. Her daughter lived in the district, and her 2 grandchildren attended the school that Karen Mitchell was systematically destroying with her incompetent leadership and fraudulent decisions. For months, she had been quietly attending board meetings, sitting in the back row taking detailed notes and watching Karen steamroll parents and teachers with her fake expertise. She had witnessed Karen vote to cut programs that her grandchildren loved, eliminate services that special needs students desperately required, and dismiss the legitimate concerns of qualified teachers who actually understood education and child development. What made Judge Judy different from every other parent who had challenged Karen was that she knew how to investigate, how to gather evidence, and how to build an airtight case that would destroy her opponent completely and permanently. Over the previous 3 weeks, Judge Judy had hired a private investigator to dig into Karen's background and verify every claim she had ever made. She contacted the Arizona State Board of Education to verify her degree claims and discovered the diploma mill scandal. She obtained financial records showing exactly where the missing special education money had gone, tracking every fraudulent transaction and forged invoice. She had documentation proving every single lie Karen had told, every fake credential she had claimed, and every dollar she had stolen from the most vulnerable children in the district. The irony was absolutely perfect. Here was Karen Mitchell, a woman whose entire identity was built on fake educational credentials and stolen authority, about to attack the education and qualifications of someone who had spent decades actually working in the legal system, actually helping children and actually earning the expertise she claimed to possess. Karen thought she was attacking a television celebrity who was out of her depth and playing at being an education expert. She believed she was humiliating a grandmother who had no business questioning her decisions. She had no idea she was about to challenge someone who had been preparing to destroy her for weeks, someone who had the evidence, the experience, and the ruthless precision to expose every lie she had ever told in front of cameras that would broadcast her destruction to millions of people. The attack came during what should have been a routine discussion about teacher qualification requirements for the upcoming school year. The board had been reviewing applications for new faculty positions when Judge Judy politely raised her hand and asked why the district was lowering certification standards when they should be raising them to attract better educators. It was a perfectly reasonable question from a concerned grandmother, but Karen Mitchell saw it as an opportunity to publicly humiliate the woman who had been quietly attending meetings and asking uncomfortable questions that exposed her incompetence. Karen's face twisted into that familiar smirk that every parent in the district had learned to hate, the condescending expression she wore whenever she was about to destroy someone with her fake authority. "You know what, Judge Judy?" she said, her voice dripping with venom as she emphasized the TV name mockingly. "I appreciate that you're concerned about your grandchildren's education, but maybe you should leave the complex decisions about educational policy to those of us who actually have the qualifications and experience to understand these issues." The room immediately tensed because everyone recognized Karen's tone. This was how she had destroyed dozens of parents who dared to question her decisions over the past 3 years. But Karen leaned back in her chair with the confidence of someone about to deliver a fatal blow, seeing Judge Judy as nothing more than an entitled celebrity grandmother, playing at being an education expert. "I mean, you're famous for yelling at people on television and making snap judgments about cases you spend 5 minutes reviewing," she continued. "But running schools and making educational policy requires real expertise. Advanced degrees in educational theory and psychology, years of actual classroom experience working with children and understanding how they learn. These aren't decisions that can be made by someone whose only qualification is being on TV." Parents throughout the room were pulling out their phones, sensing that something explosive was about to happen, while local news cameras that had come to cover a boring budget meeting were suddenly focusing intently on the exchange. Karen's confidence was growing with every word, because Judge Judy wasn't responding, sitting quietly with her hands folded, listening with the kind of patience that anyone who had watched her show would have recognized as dangerous. But Karen Mitchell had never actually watched Judge Judy's show, never seen what happened to people who underestimated her, and she mistook Judge Judy's silence for weakness. She decided to go for what she thought would be the killing blow. You talk about education reform and qualification standards, but what qualifies you to lecture us about running schools? You're just a TV judge who never even finished proper legal education, who makes millions yelling at people on television, while real educators like me spend our lives actually doing the work of teaching children and improving their futures. Unlike some people here, I actually earned my degrees through years of hard work and dedication, not TV fame and celebrity status. The room fell completely silent. Karen Mitchell had just made the biggest mistake of her life, attacking the education and qualifications of someone who had spent weeks investigating every lie she had ever told. Judge Judy slowly stood up, and anyone watching closely could see the slight smile that meant someone was about to get destroyed so completely that they would never recover. Judge Judy Schindlin stood slowly, deliberately, with the kind of controlled fury that had made hardened criminals break down and confess on national television for over 2 decades. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm, measured, and absolutely lethal. Well, Karen, since you brought up educational qualifications and legal credentials, let me tell you about the difference between real expertise and pathetic fraud. The word fraud hung in the air like a death sentence, and everyone in the room understood that they were about to witness something extraordinary. Judge Judy wasn't just defending herself anymore. She was about to systematically destroy everything Karen Mitchell had built her fake identity on. You questioned my legal education, so let me educate you about what real credentials look like. I graduated from New York Law School, worked as a prosecutor in the Manhattan family court system for 10 years, and served as a supervising judge for 25 years. Handling over 20,000 cases involving children, families, and yes, Karen, educational disputes. I've written 3 books on family law that are taught in law schools across this country. I've received honorary doctorates from Fordham University, St. John's University, and New York Law School itself. But please tell me more about my inadequate education. Judge Judy's voice was growing stronger with each credential, and Karen's smirk was rapidly disappearing as she realized she had just attacked someone whose qualifications dwarfed anything she had ever imagined. But let's talk about your education. Karen, since you're so proud of it. Judge Judy reached into her purse and pulled out a manila folder that would change Karen's life forever. Your master's degree in educational psychology from Pacific Coastal University? That's a diploma mill that operated out of a strip mall in Phoenix and was shut down by the Arizona Department of Education in 2018 for selling fake degrees to anyone willing to pay $3,000. I have the state investigation report right here. She held up official documents that made Karen's face turn white with terror. Your teaching certification? Forged. I have the original complaint filed with the California Department of Education showing that your certification number belongs to a retired teacher named Margaret Williams who reported it stolen in 2019. The room was in complete shock. Parents were staring at Karen in disbelief. Fellow board members were looking away in embarrassment, and the local news crews were frantically adjusting their cameras to capture every moment of Karen's complete destruction. Your 20 years of classroom experience? You were a substitute teacher in Riverside for exactly 97 days before being banned from the district for incompetence. I have the personnel records showing complaints from parents, teachers, and students about your behavior. You couldn't handle a classroom full of 3rd graders, Karen, but somehow you think you're qualified to make decisions about an entire school district. Karen tried to speak, her voice shaking with panic. Judge Judy, you can't just... Don't interrupt me when I'm speaking, Karen. The signature Judge Judy line that had silenced thousands of people over the years hit Karen like a physical blow. When I'm finished exposing your fraud, then you can try to explain how you've been lying to this community for 3 years while destroying children's education with your fake expertise, but here's the part that's going to destroy you completely. Karen. Judge Judy's voice dropped to that terrifying whisper that meant someone was about to get annihilated. She pulled out a thick stack of bank statements and financial documents that made Karen's remaining color drain from her face entirely. For the past 18 months, you've been stealing money from the special education budget to pay for more fake degrees and certifications. I have every transaction, every forged invoice, every dollar you've stolen from disabled children to fund your pathetic charade. The room erupted in gasps and horrified murmurs as Judge Judy held up the evidence of Karen's theft. She methodically read from the bank records, each transaction more damning than the last. March 15, 2023. $3,000 transferred from the Special Education Emergency Fund to Educational Credentials Express. Another diploma mill selling fake master's degrees. May 22nd, $1,500 to International Teaching Certification Services, a company that doesn't exist except as a website selling forged documents. July 8th, $4,000 to Advanced Educational Psychology Institute, which operates out of someone's basement in Nevada and has never been accredited by any legitimate organization. Karen was now visibly shaking, her hands trembling as she realized her entire criminal enterprise was being exposed on camera, in front of 200 people and 3 news crews. You didn't just lie about your qualifications, Karen. You've been systematically stealing from the most vulnerable children in this district to maintain your fraud. While special needs students were denied services because you claimed there wasn't enough money in the budget, you were funneling their funding into your personal bank account to buy more fake credentials. You're not just a fraud, Karen. You're a thief who steals from disabled children. You have the nerve to question my qualifications when you're sitting here with stolen money and forged documents, making decisions that destroy children's futures while pretending to care about education. You're not an educator, Karen. You're a criminal who has been running a con game on this entire community for 3 years. And now everyone knows exactly who you really are. Karen Mitchell sat frozen in her chair, unable to speak, unable to defend herself, unable to do anything except watch her entire life collapse in real time. The woman who had terrorized parents and teachers with her fake authority had been completely destroyed by someone who came prepared with facts, evidence, and the kind of ruthless precision that only comes from decades of experience exposing liars in courtrooms. If you're loving watching this educational fraud get absolutely destroyed by Judge Judy, smash that like button and subscribe for more moments when fake experts get exposed by real professionals who actually do their homework. Share this with anyone who needs to see what happens when you mess with children's education and try to scam the wrong grandmother. The immediate aftermath of Judge Judy's complete annihilation of Karen Mitchell was unlike anything anyone in that room had ever witnessed. The board chairman, who had been trying unsuccessfully to restore order throughout the exchange, sat in stunned silence as he realized he had just watched a fellow board member get exposed as a criminal on live television. Parents throughout the room were openly weeping with anger and disbelief as they processed that their children had been harmed by someone they had trusted to protect their education. The 3 local news crews were frantically calling their stations because they knew they had just captured the story of the year. Within minutes, social media exploded with a force that surprised even seasoned political observers who thought they had seen everything. The hashtag Judge Judy Destroys Karen was trending on Twitter within 20 minutes, with the original video being shared thousands of times in the first hour. The clip of Judge Judy reading Karen's bank records while Karen sat frozen in terror was going viral on TikTok, with young parents creating reaction videos expressing their horror at the theft from special education funds. Instagram was flooded with posts celebrating Judge Judy as a hero for protecting vulnerable children from a predator who had been masquerading as an educator. Conservative and liberal commentators alike were praising Judge Judy's takedown, with many noting that this wasn't about politics but about protecting children from fraud and theft. The story was picked up by every major news outlet within hours, with CNN running the full exchange under the headline, "Real Judge Destroys Fake Educator Who Stole from Special Needs Children." Fox News covered it as an example of how unqualified people infiltrate positions of authority, while MSNBC focused on the systemic failures that allowed Karen to operate unchecked for 3 years. Karen Mitchell's world collapsed with stunning speed. She resigned from the school board before the meeting even ended, rushing out of the room while parents shouted demands for her arrest. The district attorney announced a criminal investigation within 48 hours, and the FBI opened a federal case due to the interstate nature of the diploma mill fraud. Karen's husband filed for divorce within a week. Her adult children refused to speak to her, and she was forced to sell her house to pay for legal representation. The story of Karen Mitchell's spectacular destruction became a defining moment that changed how school board candidates are vetted across the entire country. Within months, districts nationwide implemented mandatory background checks and credential verification systems to prevent another fraud from infiltrating positions of power over children's education. Karen's case became a cautionary tale taught in education administration programs about the dangers of assuming credentials are legitimate without proper verification. Judge Judy's takedown didn't just destroy one criminal. It sparked a national movement demanding accountability from elected education officials. Parents groups began organizing to investigate their own school board members, discovering dozens of other cases where unqualified individuals had lied their way into positions they had no business holding. The Jefferson Elementary District recovered the stolen special education funds and used them to hire qualified teachers and expand services for disabled students, finally giving these children the support Karen had stolen from them. For Judge Judy, the confrontation proved that real expertise and proper preparation will always triumph over fake authority and stolen credentials. She continued attending school board meetings until her grandchildren graduated, ensuring that the district maintained the highest standards for education leadership. Her systematic destruction of Karen Mitchell became legendary among parents fighting incompetent school boards, showing them exactly how to research, prepare evidence, and hold fraudulent officials accountable. This incredible story proves that in any confrontation, authenticity beats fraud every single time. When you try to intimidate someone with fake credentials, you better pray they haven't done their homework, because if they have, you might just get the education of a lifetime on live television. Judge Judy didn't just defend her family that night. She protected every child in that district from a thief who was masquerading as an educator, while stealing from the most vulnerable students. This story proves that no matter how powerful you think you are, no matter how untouchable you believe yourself to be, there's always someone more prepared, more intelligent, and more ruthless waiting to expose your lies to the world. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed watching this fraud get completely destroyed. Subscribe for more moments when justice prevails over corruption, and hit that notification bell so you never miss when real experts expose fake authorities. What did you think of Judge Judy's epic takedown? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to share this with anyone who needs to see how to handle educational criminals.